Hello and welcome to another edition of Behind the Race with Michela, Cerruti and me, Lewis Duncan. And we're back to discuss another fantastic Moto E race. Racing buzzed back into life at Misano this weekend for the third round of the 2020 Enel Moto E World Cup. And Michela, finally a Ferrari has won in 2020.
Yes, that's very good news for Italy, but in general, because, I remember we were talking about it last time after the second race of Jerez when he unfortunately had the accident with Granado. And I really hoped that being at his home race could give him an additional value, some more motivation. And as last year, he confirmed that that's probably the best track for him. And he completely deserved this success, which was not easy at all because he got the penalty after that accident in Jerez. He got it pretty late, which was a bit weird, I think, maybe a little bit too late, but he had to deal with it. And yeah, I think he did it perfectly.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Stewart's inconsistency has been a topic of discussion for the past couple of weeks in MotoGP. We'll not talk about that. We'll stick to the racing. But it was an important win for Ferrari because, of course, Eric Granado didn't have a great qualifying. He ran wide on his E-pole lap, and of course, you run off track, you get your lap deleted. So he was starting 18th. And Misano, difficult circuit to overtake, especially with only 7 laps. So Ferrari, this was a crucial win. But like you say, it didn't come easy. He had to fight with Matteo in the early stages. But the difference, he said afterwards, seemed to be used tyre pace. He worked all weekend for that, and it clearly paid off in that race.
Yes, I think that was a difficult weekend for Granado. We can clearly see that. I mean, he had a very good race because at the end he could recover many places in such a short race, so more than a place per lap. So I think that was a good performance overall. And, Misano is not easy to overtake, but it's always a spectacular track. And it's also very difficult because even with cars, track limits are always the point overall during qualifying and also during fighting, during the race in the fighting stages, because it's really... Usually the quickest riders or drivers in Misano are the ones who could cut the track enough, but without being penalized, because you feel like going wide and wide because it's so flat, and you can easily go on the green without losing the motorbike and without losing time. So that was a big mistake from Granado. And after 2 very good performances in Jerez, although he had the accident with Ferrari, of course. So I think now it starts to be tough. There are only 2 races left, so not easy for him to recover from that position also in the championship.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, he made up a lot of positions. He was 10th at the end, which is a good recovery from 18th. But we have 2 races in Misano this weekend, and Ferrari is unbeaten at Misano so far. And there was nothing in that race to really suggest that that will change this weekend. And on top of that, you've got guys like Cassidy who were strong, like Dominic Egeter, the rookie in the class. Things now are getting tougher for Granado.
Yes, I think it will be tough because, for example, Egerter is showing also to be very clever in managing his first place in the championship. He was fighting with Ferrari at the end of the race in Misano, but he knew that for him it was enough also to get a second or third place to keep the leading of the championship, which is the most important thing for him. So I think he's showing to be one of the most consistent riders at the moment. Ferrari for sure made a big step up in the championship, but if Dominic could stay always there and to be a runner-up even without winning, I think that's the best thing that he could do without taking any risk. Also because, as we always say, the races are very short, no mistakes are allowed, and with these motorbikes it's very easy to make mistakes because they are not easy to drive at all. And he's also showing to be absolutely probably the one adapting better to this motorbike because he could be quick everywhere so far and in every session. So I think that if he goes on like that, his consistency will pay.
And that's something we saw last year, is that there wasn't really a consistent sort of championship challenger. They're very up and down races for a lot of the top riders. And Egerter, like you say, even if he doesn't win a race this year, it looks like he will need to try and get that win, certainly this weekend with 2 Misano races, because he cannot allow Ferrari with just 12 points gap now to get ahead of him. But like you say, that ability to adapt quicker is quite surprising, given there's a lot of experience on the grid. Mike DeMeglio, Xavier Simeon, for example, finished on the podium. So it's certainly... It's an interesting dynamic that you've got a rookie can come in and adapt straight away, and relative to these really experienced guys who, you know, he's on par with and are better than some of them.
It could look a little bit strange, but you know, when you have such a special motorbike like the Moto E is, with that big weight, you need a specific driving style to be efficient. So I think that it's apparently strange, because he has a lot of experience, but always an overall in Moto 2. So he didn't really try so many different motorbikes compared to maybe other riders, but probably his driving style suits very well this kind of motorbike, because you were talking about Simeon, for example, but Simeon it's the very first time that we can see him so up in the standings. So he couldn't be very consistent so far. And last year he didn't really have great results, apart of 4th place, if I remember it well. So I think that, or we can see big champions, experienced riders like Alex De Angelis having big troubles in riding this bike properly. So I think that at the moment the best riders doing that are Egerter and also Ferrari, because he was quick last year, he's being quick this year. So I guess the main fight for the championship will be between these two.
I agree with that, and certainly if we look ahead to this weekend's racing, 2 races, we have to think as well, we had a month off, and in that, very recently Ferrari went to Aragon for the World Superbikes to fill in on the Moto Corsa Ducati, so he already was up to racing speed, as it were, coming to this weekend. Very different bikes, of course, but a month off is a long time for some of these guys, and now we've got a very short run into the end of the championship, 2 races this weekend, and then in a couple of weeks' time, 2 races at Le Mans. So how, now that we've had three rounds, how do you see this championship shaping up? Is Ferrari now on a bit of a roll, or do you still need to see a little bit more from him first?
Well, I think that he absolutely needs not to make mistakes now. He made already one in the season, and when the season is so short and the races are so short, you cannot really give yourself another chance. So he already played his joker of the card. So I think that now he needs to stay focused. He could win this championship and win Moto E again for the second time. It will be very exciting, because yes, we can expect maybe not such a different result in Misano for the second time, but yes, then it's Le Mans, it's completely another story, completely different track. So I think that then the final of the championship could probably reserve some good surprises to move the championship again and see if there is maybe someone else coming up. And yes, the fact that he was on the motorbike within this month, it was very important. Even if you drive or ride something else, it's very important to stay always trained, to keep that racing mentality alive. And big stops are never so good for athletes. Is really difficult overall, mentally wise, to stay focused and be there straight away when you race again. And Ferrari showed that he absolutely needed not even 5 minutes to get into the pace. So that was crucial for him, I think.
And you have to think as well that this weekend is very much a make or break situation for Granado. He's still in the championship hunt. He is 23 points behind, so not an insurmountable gap, but you know, he this weekend he needs to come and stamp his authority, because the mistake, the crash in Andalusia, not his fault. a mistaken E-pole, which you really can't be having. This weekend seems to me crucial for Granado's championship hopes.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And we also know that Granado, in Jerez wasn't his fault, but overall last year he made a few mistakes. He was generally unlucky, even with crashes or falling off the motorbike. So he needs to stay on it now, and he needs to use as much as possible the round of Misano and forget about the mistake and learn from it. He has the chance to learn from it. Because he knows that he cannot do what he did there. So probably adjusting the setup better and try to stay on track because the speed was there. So I think that he could easily be on the top again and be still in the fight for the championship.
Michela, thank you very much for your company, and thank you to the viewers for watching. We'll be back next week. We don't need to wait a month this time for more exciting Moto E action.
Likely. Okay, thank you, Lewis.